Hello. So, what I'm about to say may not have been heard before. I didn't hear of it myself too until I did, and things have never been the same. Okay, without much preamble, I was talking to this person who also does say it's also called TASO, past life regression therapy, those kinds of details. And I was participating in a program, and they happened to mention that things have been a little bit fast. In the sense, they're talking about rebirth cycles and that there are some souls that began, and then over time, they began to form fragments or parts of them, in the sense, um, unfulfilled dreams, measures, and then several smaller fractions to then be able to meet and then to meet those goals, but then those goals having a little trouble, and then variations from there. So some call it entropy, in the sense um, the universe is expanding at a greater time, but then at a faster speed. But then this was the story how they told it, and that there are many fragments, kind, yeah. But um, so I'm trying to tell this in a manner that is not just read out, because then it becomes not in a continuous flow. And so often when I'm speaking, I tend to think about the matter as I'm speaking. So what I did get to know is that that's also happening because, well, I have been thinking in terms of health and Srishti optimization, listening, and then Srishti optimization is what I came to. And I noticed that I'm following a certain phases of life. There's a certain pathway of a line along which many things align, yeah, and then it's one way. So there is not many ways. There's just, it's like you're on a journey. You go through many local pathways, left and right, and several details, and then over time you come to, oh, it's on one line. Yeah, that's kind of like when you hit the, from local pathways you come to the highway, yeah, the main road, and then you come to highway, and then national, international pathway, phases of life. And along that line, when this thought line was presented to me, I was thinking that's interesting. So there's something underlying missing, because of which they're trying to fulfill it. And so there are many versions, fragments, versions of it. And so I began to pay further attention to my pathway. And then I noticed basics was missing. Several of us don't know the basics. And I would say several of them, because I've been on the pathway and I'm part of the people, so I'm including me in us, and that I also need to speak it. So if I'm not speaking it, how much do I know? Um, and so I have had to look at when is the right time to say things. Is it necessary to say this? When do I say it? I didn't even think I need to say this. But then I was thinking, I got to know about this information. And over time, I found that sharing what I have discovered, and there's always a right time for everything, um, has its own value. The sense people begin to look at our existing conditions or existing challenges from this new light. Okay. Now I've said about in the previous podcast, I spoke about Rangaredek. No, is it Shimla Mishki Hari Rang? Yeah. And I think many people have been thinking along those lines because several challenges have gone a little easier or less heavy, or paradigms of thinking from where those thought lines kind of come together, humanity across boundaries, across traditions, um, across lifetimes. So there have been some thought lines about that because there's something that's gotten softer. It's a little more finer. It's um, it's very nice to think. It's not about. It's very kind to think along those lines on what seems to be showing up from many people thinking along those lines. And maybe that's why I'm more encouraged to say this, because then maybe entropy will make a little more sense. Because a popular notion of entropy is things going fast, um, the universe expanding very fast, and then um, um, is it going to be a catastrophe? And then there's this other idea of entropy where it's not expanding, but it's kind of collapsing. So there is another version of entropy wherein differences are um, um, abating, but it's not about collision. It's not about coming together. That's also not understood. Say it's like nanotechnology, many details coming together, wherein you don't need much great stuff. A little is enough to then contain many matter, but then how much is the just right enough size between fission and fusion? But we don't go by fission and fusion as we have nuclear reactors where it is things are cool enough such that it is generating power. And I'm talking about power, where absolute power is said to corrupt. But that's also because you don't know to convert absolute power, or from not knowing that absolute power needs to be converted to power, which is let's just say there's heat in water vapor, and when they cool, condense, they into water, and then further cool becomes ice. Ice does not maintain life. I mean, ice does too, certain kinds of microbes. Water is what life, human beings, life. Also, we have springtime. Yeah. Um, so there is this middle range, so to speak, between hot or cold. Yeah. Warm, cool, pleasant weather, metabolism details. Now, so that idea of entropy as a balance between, so it's not called entropy, it's called something else, but there is also entropy necessary to maintain that optimum range. Yeah. Before you can think of optimum, what is other than that above and other than that below? That range needs to be paid attention to. For which we need frames of reference or points of reference by which you know, are we deviating left, right? Are we on the track? Where are we? Are we coming, going? Um, are we in the matter, out? Are we distracting? Which is important. And when I heard about this story about souls um, multiplying, kind of, yeah, in order to meet certain goals, but having difficulty. We've had 2 years of the pandemic, and I heard about this story before then. Okay. And I got to know about the wet market. The story was a bit of information because at some point I got to know that I'm a world paradigm of thinking, and I'm a solution. I did not come think of much of it as I'm a solution at that point in time. But though earlier I did come to it, and that I'm having something, and that I'm doing courses, and that I have a work to do, and like, what am I doing all of these courses? Yeah. And Mr. Robin Sharma also has leader without a title and those kinds of details. And I've heard about it. But then still people ask for certificates. People want to know what's your authority? What do you know about matter? Show us what you've done. Show us your certificate. Mm, license details. You have a vehicle on the road. So how is it you're driving? And so there are rules and regulations. And And the Constitution keeps getting amended, added with details, because something is seen as not already included, because of which something is possible or not possible. And then I discovered we have WHO's global list of diseases. Also because several people, several paradigms of thinking haven't been able to think about the human body because it wasn't time for them to think about the human body in this way, because we were warring tribes, and then economic challenges, and then we've had 2 years of the pandemic, and then we've been looking at drama, strife between me, you, between nationalities, ethnicities, ways of living, um, what's right, what's wrong, and then arriving at our own constitutions, updating it. What then does it mean for us to be on the same planet? United Nations formed. And then still some countries are main countries, some are on the list with the board. Yeah, so there are many details about it, yes. And we have also WHO's global list of diseases formed from collating information after the United Nations formed from across the globe on what it takes to then move to the next stage of becoming better. From warring tribes to now, it's a long, ooh, eventful, not so small journey. Yeah. And I discovered that the human body itself hasn't been able to be appreciated the way it needs to be, because it wasn't the time for it earlier. There were other concerns important. Yeah. And now we can look in terms of diseases, but more in terms of what would help us go beyond diseases so we have more humans alive and living healthy, wealthy wise. The idea of healthy, wealthy wise has been there since some time. And community harmony has been more begin to be thought about. United Nations, now International Day of Yoga. So many details have come about. International Day of Yoga also came about during or somewhere between the, the pandemic times to bringing more harmony. So by intelligent design, several details have come about, and then several measures have come about in bringing about harmony, but also resolving problems as they have shown up. And I discovered I'm contributory in those bettering changes also coming about. Also because I heard of this story, souls, some years before the pandemic. And I've been facilitating health since 2013, at least. Um, I hit ground nothing in 2008, 9. Yeah, 9, I think. 2005, I was listening to the radio. 19 plus years of medical transcription background, also continue. But it's also about listening. It's about there's this idea of Ganesha, big ears, yeah, who listens, and then also called Vignesha, where you go beyond Vigna, or that which does not allow for progress and health and wealth and wisdom and communal harmony. He's also been called Ganesha. Gana, as in people, and then Isha, where Ashtadigandhana is talking about northeast, Ishana, Isha as in direction. But Vigna Esha, but you go beyond the that which gives rise to, or that which limits, then what it takes to go beyond. I found is also related with the idea of Hanuman, Vayuputra, or Hercules. It's a Herculean task. And I've found a human being is a human being versus just a human body. A human being is capable of turning around unhealthy situations to health facilitating, health enabling factors by how a person anatomy and physiology is oriented or constituted. And that's not how we look at our human body. We look at it kind of like parts. There's anatomy, and then the physiology of how these parts work together and how the body works. And so many methods of healthcare has one or the other versions of these, is what I found over the years. Talk about it in terms of biodynamics, in terms of Reiki, in terms of pranic healing, in terms of um, homeopathy, in terms of Ayurveda, in terms of allopathy, one or the other versions of bits of information. It's about which bit of information, who looks at which bit of information. Some see the hormones, some see tissues, some see fluids, some see energy, some see different bits of information, and then how the world looks like when their bits of information is put together, still forms a human body. Yeah. And their bits of information may not be talking to another person's bits of information, or this person's network of how the human body works and what the human body constitution is different from this perspective versus this perspective versus this perspective. So we have the idea of six blind men and the elephant. This is many people from their own perspective. It's like Earth, and we have stars and planets and galaxies, and everybody having their own view on what Earth is. And then there is a side of Earth where there is no land, just ocean. Has anybody seen it? Until I saw a Instagram, YouTube image of it, I didn't know Earth had this side. Yeah. So there are many details we don't know about until somebody brings it to the fore, to our attention. Yeah. So as I've been facilitating health clinically, I also noticed there's this idea of Anunnaki, which is talking about ascension, or rather, Anunnaki Anunnaki are said to be people, yeah, who are descendants from heaven. And over time, I found, as I've been facilitating health, I have a person-centric model of the universe where I look at life from what I have seen over time in the course of living life, but also in the course of facilitating health clinically. And then I'm a clinical health facilitator. So I have a therapeutic presence, a set of practices by which I notice people show up in health, in clinic, off clinic, in interpersonal interactions. When I'm being a certain way, yeah, or rather, from my perspective, and I'm continuing to practice what I've been doing clinically, in clinic, off clinic, I notice people keep showing up in health. And I have a body that's human, and others also have a body that's human. And I know that what I'm doing is not what others are doing because they don't know there is this about the human body. Yeah. So it's not an energy practice, but it's a matter plus energy practice. Yeah. I call it me. People keep talking in terms of you, or this is not people's versions of me. We say me, we don't relate it as matter plus energy composite. That same science like a flower has petals and stamen and calyx and many details. You say it's a flower. We have WHO's global list of diseases from not looking at this flower, yeah, human body. Well, tree, seed, flower of life. We got many details, but we do relate to seed of life and flower of life, and tree of life. Those who relate to sacred geometry, those who have understanding of tree of life, you may have even sometime maybe heard these words or not. Nevertheless, we have a family trees. It's a family tree, not a organization stone tree. Mother family tree, father family tree. Yeah. Um, so we have some reference to nature-based tree seeds. And as I've been continuing with my person-centric model of the universe slash reality and improving nothing for the better, which is also part of how I have been maintaining my perspectives clean. Beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. So I regularly clean my eyes or my perspectives It's like being a car on the road. Yeah, you got to regularly clean the windshield to be able to see the road clearly, where you're headed, how you're going. You should also be aware of the car and details, and so it's all part of the journey. So I have been on my highway, yeah, my pathway, and then I have the story, and I discovered a human body. When we relate to our body in a particular manner, then inflammation heals. And over 2 years of the pandemic, I noticed when I was maintaining my own health from these perspectives, yeah, from the practice of maintaining my own health, from the muscle fibers and different details, in a particular manner, I call it Nirbij Yoga, wherein they say when you break open a seed, you find nothing, and that's where the forest is. I read about this during a trip during my college times. Yeah, we had a um, South India, somewhere about there, a trip with college mates, and I happened to read this sentence during a just a you know unpaved pathway somewhere written a yeah. So as you walk, the path appears. This just happened to come to my field of vision. Some people have it on a billboard, or if you've seen it, you've seen it. Yeah, but I saw this, and there are seeds of impressions. In yoga terms, they say impressions, all kinds of impressions. And then and if you don't clean the impressions, the seeds sprout, is how they say, is how I read it. Then I was saying, then I found our lives are made up of lot of impressions. We are also impressed by icons and leaders and trees and sun and moon and stars and many kinds of details. So impressions are not the problem. What is inside the impressions are seeds of impression. And the seeds, when you break open a seed, is nothing. And that's where the forest is. So over time, I discovered I had ground nothing just about 2009. And then I have been improving, healing nothing, improving nothing for the better. Yeah. In the book of Genesis, they say in the beginning there was nothing. And then God said, let there be light, and there was light. So I earlier on, my childhood, yeah, um, serendipitously, my mother, when she would get angry, she would say, you're nothing. Yeah, stand on the ground and learn how to walk before you learn how to fly. Yeah. So we're all seeds of life, come from to know what all past life experiences. And we have the right parents to get us to be doing what we are born for. Yeah, what we have the potential for. So these are all the sentences that I got conditioned over time. It's like a stone, rough stone, chisel, chisel, and then the statue forms, and I become like this. Yeah. And I have these thought lines, and to continue to become better. See, like milestones, chisel, chisel. Ooh. So if the statue is going to keep making complaints about, see, they be beating me, yeah, then the statue doesn't form. Yeah, but David was already there in the marble. All Michelangelo did, yeah, is carve out David. Michelangelo, yeah. Okay. So there's a Star of David. There's also the statue of David with a catapult, and so it's like Lagan, yeah, but one person standing against the army, and yeah, so against the opponent details. But the thing is, Star of David is also said to be the star that guides the three kings to the manger, yeah, where there's a new light. Okay. Having said all that, I discovered that people don't know how to maintain their light of life healthy within themselves, because light also needs digestion. Now I'm speaking with a light only. There's also the computer screen and sunlight and moonlight and stars and planets, and well, until they discovered the twinkly twinklies, or somewhere not twinkly twinkly, and so they were planets. We would call everybody stars. Yeah, galaxies. They zoom in and then see that's not one, it's a lot of them. Until they could zoom in and see, they didn't know it was apparently a blank patch of sky. They zoomed in and saw a lot of stars, and then they found some are galaxies. Don't know what else they haven't discerned because they haven't been able to zoom in well enough. Similarly, we are seeing multiple souls and many details. The thing is, however they have formed, yeah, how much ever versions there are, economically, it takes something to form a human body. From unicellular to multicellular to all the several details to forming a human body. However they have formed, they have a body that's human. Yeah. They have the potential for bringing forth a paradigm of thinking, living, which is not otherwise possible. So no matter what the reason for coming to existence has been, yeah, they have the potential for enlivening life in the multiverse because they have a body that's human. Baseline. Now discovered, as I've been healing the fabric of time space, maintaining being human and maintaining being me, fewer people were getting infected during the 2 years of the pandemic and lockdowns were lifting. So I had to discover what's the science by which a human being, me, could do this. If I can do this, other human beings also should be able to do this because they have a body that's human. Basic framework detail. And then I discovered the Shri Chakra is a 2D representation of the four dimension, Mooladhara four dimension. That is of one dimensional Kundalini. And then this Kundalini is basically one human being. Yeah. Which is represented by the idea of the Asclepius. One pole, one snake. Symbol of medicine. Yeah. Caduceus has two snakes. Two. Asclepius also has a wing. Yeah. Caduceus has definitely two wings in the pole, and then two snakes, representing Ida Pingala, but is also masculine and feminine. Nature, nurture, complementary opposites. Visible, invisible, several complementary opposites. Yeah, light, dark. And it takes something to keep it together. For example, it takes improving nothing for the better. Because nothing within the seed is where the forest is. So it's a good forest versus not so good forest depends on the content within nothing. And I discovered this nothing is so either sought after or not thought after, thought about. So it's pretty interesting. You've thought and not thought. How is it possible? Black hole, which is said to be where all information in galaxies, stars, and all kinds of information. If it goes into the black hole, you don't know where it goes. Yeah, is what's been said. Now I discovered it goes at least into nothing. And I've been healing, improving, healing, nothing for the better, improving nothing for the better. It's kind of all information goes in there. Like in the movie Inside Out. Haley's Joy Bobule, yeah, goes into her system and then drops from her brain to the place where all old memories are put off into the abyss. And then Joy drops there, and then her life goes a little less joyful or less colorful. And then Joy found lots of memories, including her um, pink elephant and childhood friend and imaginary. Oh, beautiful, nice. Yeah, including those little details, those not so small little small details in the abyss. And then what I discovered is I have been healing the abyss and bringing forth memories and information from the abyss where time has also forgotten that they exist. Yeah. And I have been information rehabilitating. Clean the inner done, and then, oh, this is important. Yeah, we have this little detail. And then this, like Piper. There's an animation movie, Piper, where Piper um, initially scared of the ocean and then goes, ew, and then sees the ocean from under the water. And they're like, oh my goodness. And then brings out seashells, kind of. Yeah. Also connected with Finding Dory, where Dory's parents put seashells so that Dory can find her way back home. And Dory is related with Pandora of movie Avatar. Dora, Pandori, no, Pandora, and Dory. Finding Dory. Dory shorter memory concerns to remember where her home is, and yeah, otherwise lost in space or lost in different details. Yeah, lost in the water, or away from. Okay, you don't know where you are, kind. Otherwise, so this is reference to she sells seashells on the seashore. Betty bought some butter, but the butter was so bitter, so Betty bought some better butter to make the bitter butter better butter. People have bits of information, don't know how to digest the bitter, and it's also called vishachikitsa or toxicity, where everything is medicine, depends on the dose. Everything is poison, depends on the dose. And it's covered medicine and toxin are medicine and poison are two sides of the same coin. Yeah. And a human body is the coin which was invented over several cycles of earth.inc, life.inc, discovering what needed to be invented, created to enliven life in the multiverse. Since the Big Bang, what is better created so that this for-profit enterprise, this whole family estate, big estate called the universe, can become profitable. Life enlivening, many details. It's more like, why do you need coins? What is possible when you have coins? Coins are a representation of money. Yeah. So a human being is a coin invented by Life.inc. And we're supposed to be healing the fabric of time space, health, wealth, wisdom. Health is wealth. And when you have wealth, good enough. That's also, you maintain wealth by wisdom. Otherwise, you're not having wealth. It's about how long. Wisdom is how you also maintain wealth. Health is wealth. When you don't have health good enough, you don't know what to wisen. You don't know what to choose to invest in, what to wisen, or where wisening needs to happen so that wealth is maintained. If wealth is all that we are all focused on, there's also Ashtalakshmi. Health is an important detail about it, which we sometimes tend to, it's not sometimes, a lot, take for granted. WHO's global list of diseases, saying we don't know where to look at, what to look at, where to look for, and what to look at in going beyond WHO's global list of diseases, at least. And those details, some of those details, is a big part of those details is discovering the human being. Yeah, human body. That's mighty discovery. And then also discovered that the Sri Chakra is a 2D representation of a 1D Kundalini, which is a human being. And we don't know this human being's composition. Because if you're not looking at Sri Chakra, you don't know what to look at. No, you don't know where to look at for what. But you have the Sri Chakra, but don't know what's that got to do with human body, and then WHO's global list of diseases, and we have humanity across boundaries concerns. How is one human being related with another human being? And then how is one soul related with another soul? And why do we have diseases, diseases? It's also called quantum entanglements, quantum mechanics, and you have rainbow spectrum of autism spectrum, cancer spectrum, intellectual spectrum, gender spectrum, disease spectrum. We got many other we I said intellectual spectrum, emotional spectrum. It's more like what have you? Yeah, we have spectrums. We have not thought about it because you don't want to think about it because you got a range. You have stock market. That's a spectrum. You have a range there. Construction spectrum, religion spectrum, nationality spectrum. We have different states in one country. Yeah, we have many countries with many states. in there. And states of matter, yeah, that we have a little concern. We have periodic table with many, many states or many degrees of elements. Yeah, we have stars, planets, galaxies, and Pluto is a planet, not a planet. It is a planet, not a planet. So our definitions are having a little moment. It's more like, don't get me started. Yeah, I'll pull out the range of what else. But kind of, we have a range of stuff we don't want to think about because we like to think about this much. We can handle this much. When we can handle better, then we will look at something better. Yeah. I'm saying there is a solution for all of that. It's a frame of reference. It's a point of reference. I started with a dot at the center of Sri Chakra. Now it's come to frame of reference. There are many dots and dashes and connections. And not having a reference, well, a frame of reference. You have dashboards, frame of reference for the scheme of things. Where is everything? You want to go to a place, you see a map. And you know, this is a shop, this is a road, this is natural location, and you need to go to these details, these fine details you need to be paid attention to. Then you know you have a journey. Otherwise, you want to fly up to outer space. Yeah, you don't have a map of where in the world you are in the whole scheme of things. You're on Earth. You have maps, but we don't know. We're like, uh, have eyes but don't know what to see. Yeah, kind of clueless. Well, kind of clueless, and would like to fly up to outer space and colonize Mars and Moon. Yeah. So suffice it to say, we're kind of lost, or rather, you are kind of lost. You versus me. I discovered there is me, matter plus energy composite, which is not how people think about me. Yeah. And that we say, believe in yourself, a human body. You are not figured out. You, human body, is not figured out because you formed from father material, baked in mother's womb into human body composition. Fertilized ovum, basically ovum, but without sperm, human body wouldn't form because the umbilicus, the placenta are all related with father material. Yeah. And consequently, our human body is father material plus partner material. The amniotic sac forms when the fertilized ovum is ready enough to, embedded and then ready in different stages of forming the human body. Yeah. The amniotic sac is related with partner material. So that's like the ocean, like earth, ocean, life forms in the ocean. Yeah. Our human body is father material plus partner material, which is you. And I found my complementary partner material, partner, yeah, my ocean basically, yeah, like egg, yolk, white, clear. So I found my clear. And people don't relate with that. So it's like, oh my God, I don't know about the human body. But you look at yourself in the mirror, yeah, and you have lots of stories about who are your people, who are not your people, who's related to whom. You can't see your genes, family tree, mother family tree, father family tree, and then genetics, epigenetics. You can't see microbes. But 2 years of the pandemic, one invisible microbe had a lot of people think about microbes. One dot, or I don't know if it's a dot, but it's at least a sphere. Yeah, with three thingies, sticky odd bits from there. Yeah, corona. But corona is also related with sun. But corona radiata is also related with the ovum, fertilized ovum. Yeah, so there's this corona there. And the common cold, there was said to be an institution which ran for about 50 years to figure out why common cold has been happening. And they apparently closed it, lack of funds, due to inconclusive findings, inconclusive results. Yeah, that's what I figured out during 2 years of the pandemic when I was looking at the same corona. And then I was thinking, it's like the common cold gone wild. Is it the cold gone wild? Then I discovered there's this 50-year, this institution that was there. So, and then I had to look at why is there inflammation? Because sometime earlier in primary school, I discovered the common cold virus or bacteria is because the bacteria changes its composition every 3 seconds. Yeah, I was thinking, wow, every 3 seconds. And they don't know what to address. Said that the common cold bacteria can be addressed and then common cold is not there. Sometime in primary school, somewhere I happened to read. Yeah. And then I discovered when I, over time, also after 2 years of the pandemic, kind of during, that our body is a whole set of microbes holding hands called a microcosm. And there's lots of microbes. I happened to go to this place called Saraya, Sarayu, Saraya in Goa, permaculture, with Devashi Zuchi. She guided me through learning geoglyphs, fourth way work, all these practices. So a retreat in Goa, Saraya, and one of the two, Saraya, I think. Yeah. And there, one of the activities was learning about permaculture because permaculture, permaculturing has been happening there. Yeah. And they spoke about microbes. You have your kitchen waste, vegetable peel, put it in soil, a little bit of water, cover it, and then overnight, yeah, with the microbes in the soil, all that digestion is darker soil. It's dark soil, and it doesn't even have the smell of it. Yeah, and then so and then garden, yeah, microbes. They're there in the soil. Yeah, I discovered um, groundnuts. They hold nitrogen in the soil. And when nitrogen is, I also discovered our nose, for example, when you're breathing healthy and naturally through the nose nitrogenizes and heals the arteries, veins, capillaries through where blood flows. So that the arteries, there are healing factors introduced into the blood through the nose. Laughing gas, nitrous oxide, nitric oxide. One of this. One of them is a laughing gas. It becomes a little problem. But there's another version of nitric oxide and nitrous oxide. I, I can pause it and then look it up. Why don't you look it up? So you have something to search. So I'm not giving it to you. You go look it up too. Which is nitric oxide? Which is nitrous oxide? One is laughing gas. One is healing gas. Yeah, kind of. When you're breathing healthy naturally and breathing in a particular manner, nitrogen becomes part of what heals your arteries, veins, nerves through the blood. And so heals the blood, by which nitrogenized blood, oxygen, okay, also is going through your system and then having your brain, blood-brain barrier, for example, also function less inflamed. So you can think more clearly. But also healing your different bodily systems so that you're not getting inflamed. You're maintaining more being human, like a groundnut or a peanut. Regularly maintain nitrogen, the soil health from how your body then also holds nitrogen. Nitrogen is also an important part, is one of those important gases, elements, which maintains health, livability. And the fabric of time space is also cultivated. It's like a groundnut cultivating the land, so there is better protein holdability, and people are drinking protein. Morning wake up when they're glugging protein because there's a groundnut here who's healing the fabric of time space, improving nothing for the better. So the proteins and then termites, yeah, are more taking care of the land. So rain, there is no soil erosion, and then water, um, um, So Earth is maintained livable. Yeah. So I'm basically holding the termites, no, microbes, living people, livability, healing the fabric of time space, no, healing, improving nothing for the better. So that everything becomes better. That is part of the conglomerate science. So everybody who has a body that's human is capable of learning what I'm teaching, making available, so that I'm not the only groundnut who's doing the work, or the peanut groundnut. Yeah, because I may be a nut, but I'm not only a nut. Mr. Bean, um, a person who played the character of Mr. Bean. Yeah, I'm a human. So I got lots of animals, plants, microbes, and earth, water, fire, spirit, space, tapping everything too. Because I have a conscience and people in a referenceable manner and in an updatable manner. You would like to have a conscience in a referenceable manner, updatable manner? Because you may be dealing with consciousness concerns, intellectual concerns, intelligence concerns, bits of information, different life challenges, contact me. Yoga concerns, WHO's global list of diseases, don't know what to do with what you have, contact me. It's a little market, mini market, a mart. Yeah. With mathematics and pathematics and several details you don't know you need to be having to have your life be sustainably healthy, wealthy, wise, and communally harmonious. Because enlivening life in the multiverse requires you to mine the asteroid that you are. The black box in Mecca is said to have an asteroid inside. And I learned how to mine the asteroid, which is also actually connected with everything. Yeah. Because we don't know where is everything. We have theories of everything. We don't know how to improve everything for the better. Because if we did, we would be going beyond WHO's global list of diseases. Instead, I'm doing my stuff, and people are doing their projects and developing different tools by which to address their bits of details, their bits of information, by which to improve their market. We're all on the same planet Earth. So I'm slowly enabling people to develop the tools by which we can um, improve our learning and health, wealth, and wisdom from just having a body that's human. That's my bit. Um, they also discovered proteins from outer space, and then the rocks produce oxygen. Yeah. And DNA that converts protein to DNA, bacteria that converts protein to DNA, and several and particle for graviton. Yeah. Yeah, gravitas of the matter, which was not foundable earlier. Yeah. And elements in the periodic table and several details. So, ഇനി എന്തെല്ലാം കാണാനിരിക്കുന്നു. Yeah. There's so much more to see. Yeah. And also update many, many tables and periodic tables and spectrum. Yeah. Just say frames of reference. Yeah. So you better get started on yours because we have a human body framework, apparently, because if you see, only when you look at finer details will you see some are short, some are tall, some are in different gender, different shapes and sizes. But there is a human body framework, which is different distinctly from dogs or cats or plants. Yeah. And you have a body that's human. You don't know your map or your referenceable, updatable conscience. I'd be able to guide you because I have 47 plus years of different levels of experience, also trainings. Um, and I would be able to speak to you in a language that you would be able to understand because If you can contain only this bit of information, even if I'm going to tell this much, like like in this video, you'll only grasp that bit of information which you're ready for. Breakfast, you can have this much. Lunch, you can have this much. Dinner, you can have this much. As a baby, you can have this much. As an adult, you can have this much. As a senior citizen, you can have this much. Yeah. So depending on your stage of development, you'll be able to enjoy that bit of information. But getting started is how you become better. One step at a time, one moment at a time. Yeah. So contact me. That will be the first step. And then you're going to be watching these videos. You're listening to general information, specific information where you can begin drawing your conscience, and so that you can update your referenceable detail. I can just post the structure of it, but without it making meaning to you. It will be somebody else's version or my version of it. It wouldn't be your version of it. So even if you draw it, if you don't know what those several details are, and it requires a certain, it's called pedagogy or andragogy, a method by which it would make sense to you, which I'm authorized to make available. So contacting me is the first step to figuring out quantum mechanics, quantum consciousness, and then going beyond hard problem of consciousness and going beyond WHO's global list of diseases. Every human who joins my school learns something by which they are not going to be part of the disease list, but more part of the healthy list. Thank you so much for your kind interest. I hope this has been of value to you.